right. So how would you describe your high school experience?
Oh my goodness, how would I describe my high school experience? Fun. Oh my gosh, I loved high school. It was fun. There were so many opportunities. I think that's the thing that stands out to me is that we got involved in everything. You know, we didn't have to be like experts in something. It was a time when you could just be involved in everything. You didn't have to be great at it. So you could be, I was on the yearbook staff, I was in the school plays, I was in the choir, I was a cheerleader, I was a class president, and I wasn't great at any of those, but you could be involved in everything, and that's one of the things that I loved here. You didn't have to just be like one superstar athlete and nothing else, and so I just think of it as a time when I could explore a lot and do a lot of things.
Did anything happen to you while in high school that impacted how you got where you are now? Like any teachers or classes or coaches?
Yeah, I think that sometimes it was the things that you wanted to do that you failed or you didn't get into that kind of helped you to figure out how do you get past, when everything's perfect, it's great. Like you try out for something and you get it, and that boosts your confidence, which is really helpful. And I think that Mariemont did a lot to boost my confidence. But I think there were also times when you failed and you tried out for something and you didn't get it, and you realized that Mariemont as a community would still kind of help support you. And so I think what I learned here is that it's okay to fail, it's okay to try things, it's okay to not be great at something and to still be enthusiastic about it. And so I think it gave me a foundation as I went on in life to realize I'm going to try some things, I'm going to fail. I'm not going to get into every college I apply to, I'm not going to get into every grad school I apply to, I'm not going to get every job I apply for, but kind of knowing that it would all turn out eventually, and I think that that was kind of the spirit of what I learned here at Mariemont.
Have you always had such a passion for empowering women, and like was this present while you were in high school?
Yes, but I don't think I knew it. I went back, I had been voted to be the speaker at graduation, and usually the speaker was the valedictorian, and I was not the valedictorian. It was Polly Walker-Ryan in our class. And she opted not to speak. I think, public speaking isn't for everyone. And so the class voted for me to be our graduation speaker. And I still have a copy of my graduation speech, and I have gone back and read it a few times. And it is a pretty strong sort of feminist perspective on things. Because what I saw at Mariemont is that men and women could both succeed. So I really loved that about the school, that the class president could be female and the editor of the yearbook could be female. I didn't see it as a male-dominated. I saw it as a very sort of egalitarian school. And then what happens is you kind of you move out into the business world, which is not necessarily, you don't see as many women in leadership positions, and you start to see kind of more men in the leadership positions. So I think what grounded me is back to high school, where women could be equally powerful to men here, and that men weren't threatened by that. Like, we all just sort of supported each other. And I think as I entered the business world and saw less support for women than I'd probably seen here, it really inspired me to want to just create an environment where women could feel more confident and more able. Because I think it came back to a place here where I felt like I was really supported in that. So it was kind of early roots that were formed that you don't see, until later. Yeah.
That's cool. What aspirations did you have leaving high school, and did you think you would be where you are
now? No. Would I be where I am now? No. Flat out no. If someone had told me, the answer would have been no. So to all that.
Yeah.
I was very focused on going to medical school. That was it. That was my dream. That was my goal. And then I got there and I hated it. And so that was probably my first big crushing moment of what happens when you set up a goal for your whole life and you actually achieve your goal and then it's not what you thought it would be. And that was a big time of self-reflection. But I felt, again, I had a family that I believed would be supportive when I came back and said, just kidding. Thought I wanted to be a doctor, but turns out I don't really like this thing called medical school. So that's the only thing I'd ever imagined in life, is that I wanted to be a doctor, and there I was in medical school and I hated it. So I left. I had an amazing professor in college who really sat down with me and helped me figure out where my passion was. And as I've said before, find those adults, whether they're professors in school, your family, find the adults who sometimes have wisdom beyond your years of wisdom and who can say to you, like, here's what I see is what you're really good at, and maybe this is the path you want to take. So without that, I think I could have been pretty lost. But I had a professor at Miami who said, I really think you love social psychology, you're really good at that, like why don't you consider going to grad school in that? And then as soon as I got there, everything sort of unfolded as to that's where I should have been, that's where my heart was, that's where my interests were, that's where my passion was. But I'm not sure I could have figured that out, on my own. And then owning my own business was no part of any plan that I ever had. So I usually say to people, whatever you're doing now, be passionate about what you're doing, do what you love. It will find its way to the next step. Like, you don't have to have the next step always figured out. You should think you have the next step maybe figured out. But if you get there and it's not what you thought it was going to be, it's okay. It's not about changing your mind, it's about gaining more information just to refocus your thoughts. And so instead of thinking of like, I failed because I decided to leave medical school, or I failed because I changed my mind, it's more like, I have more wisdom and data now, and so I'm just going in a different direction. So would I have ever thought I was going to be owning my own business when I left Mariemont? Never. Mm-hmm.
After college, you went and you worked at that company. Like, what was that experience like, and what was it like compared to your job now?
So I never took a business class in college. Not a good plan. I would recommend to, get a well-rounded education when you're in college. But I was so focused on going to med school, that was it. I was a chemistry major. I was always focused on that. And then it was time to get a job. And sort of what were my skills going to be? And I had skills that allowed me to enter the business world because I could be a statistician and crunch numbers, which I learned in grad school. And I didn't love crunching numbers, I didn't love being a statistician, but it's a marketable skill. And so there was a business that needed a statistician, and I fell into the business world, and I just loved it. Like, I loved everything about a business setting. Some people love being in a hospital or being, there's just different environments, and I found that I love the business world because it's a bunch of smart people who are working together in teams, who are trying to problem solve, and it's pretty fast-paced, and that really fit my personality well. And so sort of falling into that environment, just allowed me to learn a lot of things about myself that you can't always just learn in a classroom. You can sort of know what you're good at in a classroom, but then when you get into a setting, things just, play out differently. And so I love the corporate world, and I probably could have stayed there forever, except then I just had this incredible passion, for solving what I saw as this problem as women leading tech. And I'm kind of a problem solver, and it seemed like a really good puzzle I wanted to go chase.
Yeah. And what was that transition like from the company to here?
It was, it's a leap of faith. And I think, again, what I learned in Mariemont, and especially, most of us who live in Mariemont, we come from pretty lovely families who really want the best for us and give us that foundation of kind of that unconditional love that we're going to be here for you. So I took that leap of faith and said, it's better to try and fail than to not try. And that's really how I entered starting my own business. I knew that it was something I had to try, and I almost sort of gave myself permission to fail. But what I couldn't imagine is not trying, because at that point I felt very passionately about trying. So I just said, I'm going to try, and if I fail, then that's okay, then I'll find something else. So it was a pretty big, scary leap of faith, but I also had probably a disproportionate amount of belief that it could happen. Probably not well-placed belief that it could happen, but I had enough enthusiasm that I thought if I worked hard enough, it could happen. And so I decided I'm going to go after it, and I got lucky that it worked.
What do you consider your greatest accomplishment?
That one's hard because as a parent, you just immediately sort of go to parenting. Because I look at, without the unconditional love of my parents, would I have been able to take the chances that I took and to go back to them and say, I've changed my mind about things, I'm taking a different direction. So I sort of think my greatest accomplishment is hopefully giving my kids that same foundation that I want them to go become who they are and to figure out who they are, and whatever that is, I want to support them in that. So it's hard kind of once you're a parent not to think that giving that, that same support, that unconditional love to your kids is, kind of feels like your biggest accomplishment.
And last question, what would you tell your high school self?
What would I tell my high school self? I think I would tell my high school self to just enjoy every minute of this. It's, I don't think that people, it is not that high school is the best time in your life and you're going to peak in high school. It's going to, you know, I mean, you want to know that it's going to get better, but also this is an incredibly special time. And to have those memories of just that time, being with your friends and being in a homecoming football game or being in the choir in a play, kind of all those opportunities, like take advantage of all of those because you only get to do it once. And so I think that's what I'd say to my high school self is enjoy it, try and remember it, try and take it in, and then let it set you up for kind of the next thing that happens, whatever that next thing might be.